Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we are discussing a timepiece that embodies the phrase an honest watch. I use the term, and people ask me, what do I mean when I say an honest watch? Simply that the watch is exactly what it purports to be. And in the case of the Marathon Chrono Search and Rescue Jumbo Diver Pilot, which we have right here, this is the CSAR, it is truly one of the world's very few military-used mechanical timepieces. A Canadian-based company that manufactures in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Marathon is a longtime supplier of U.S., Canadian, and other servicemen who want something more than just a G-Shock or a Timex Ironman, but don't want to take an ultra-expensive Rolex, Breitling, Omega, or other into harm's way. And that's where Marathon kind of fills a niche, providing a genuine Swiss-made mechanical watch for the most dangerous and destructive applications. So this timepiece is the real deal. I've known a lot of servicemen who owned these. I was in the Navy, spent a lot of time around Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, and you better believe they have these things. So this watch right here is 46 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel and 17.6 millimeters thick, 55.1 from lug to lug, and 22 between the lugs. They call this the Jumbo Diver Pilot, and now you know why. So on my wrist, the Jumbo, let's take a good look at this. It's a big watch, and you'll appreciate that it is purposefully huge, the better to be able to read it. Now, they do make smaller watches, so don't worry if this doesn't fit. There are other Marathon timepieces for you. Not every serviceman is the size of Rambo. I know, you may be surprised, there are Navy SEALs under 6 feet tall. In the real world, not everyone can wear this watch. So I would say, if your wrist is 17 centimeters circumference or up, game on. If it's smaller, you're going to want to look for a smaller Marathon watch. Taking a quick look at the strap. The strap is rubber, and it's remarkably pliant, though it is thick. It's very sturdy. It's got a matte finish. There are some striations molded in. You could see that there is a hobnail pattern on the bottom to give it a little bit more grip against the wrist so it doesn't move around. You'll note there's a brand new Marathon strap, no crimping, no gouging. And then we've got a stainless steel buckle, and we know because it says so, with the Marathon logo on it. It's a combination of polish and satin. It's a good looking buckle for on-the-fly adjustments. The case is simple and, like I said, honest. You want to swap straps frequently? Well, they give you strap tool holes right in the side. You want something that's simple and tough? Nothing fancy, integrated blended lug profiles with simple lug curvatures. Everything satin to resist glare. We have an unbranded crown and unbranded pushers, and because we want to be able to use this thing when our hands are slimy and wet, they give you these large diameter, heavily knurled screw-down shoulders. So it's very easy to activate your chrono pushers. A lot of times these things get locked down, but the large diameter and the sharp knurling makes it easy to unlock them and unscrew them when the time arrives to use your chronograph. And the watch is a pleasure to operate. 300 meters, water resistant. It has a absolutely superb, let's listen to this, 120 click unidirectional rotating dive bezel with super sharp and deep knurling on the side. Once again, for easy use when your hands are wet, sweaty, gloved, or all of the above. So we line up the pearl. This is where things become a little bit different. This is a metal bezel insert, the better to not crack or fracture the way ceramic may. But let's take a look at the light here, because as I remove luminescence, you're going to realize that this is a genuine tritium tracer dial. So the brightest elements are luminova, but the remainder of the dial, tritium tracers, which means you've got these little glass capsules full of a phosphorescent gas activated by beta ray emitting tritium. So this is a genuine T dial. Today you can't just paint it openly, it has to be encapsulated in a glass tracer. But this dial will stay just as bright. You'll be able to see the primary hands as well as the hour indices all night. If you put this thing in a dive locker, pull it out in the middle of the night, 5 weeks later, it's still going to be glowing. Now, of course, the superluminova elements, which you can see as the brightest elements, they will dull and they will dim, but the fundamental dial with the tritium tracers will remain dimly lit because it is self-activating and does not rely on sunlight. Periodically, you can send the watch back to Marathon, and tritium has a half-life of about every 12 and a half years. So every 12 and a half years, they'll replace the tracers. Easy to do. The dial is much like the watch. Matte finish for anti-glare qualities. You can see H3, that represents the tritium in the tracers, and then the little radiation symbol, again, the same thing. This is not dangerous in any way, don't worry. We have high contrast instrument style white on black markings. There's a decimeter scale outboard on the Reho. That's what that is, if you're wondering what that scale is called, that goes up to 100. It doesn't have many modern applications, but some very specialized professions and applications still do request hundredths of a minute, and that will give it to you. We have inside a very simple Valjoux 7750. Screw the crown out. It's all 300 meters water resistant. We have a double quick set for the Date 8 system. Pull the crown out once more, and you activate hacking seconds. So now you can stop the seconds hand and set the watch precisely against a reference time. Once again, we have a very sharply knurled crown that's easy to grip. The bezel, I could play with that 120 click bezel all day long. And bezel insert replacements for these are cheap and plentiful from Marathon, so you can gouge it to your heart's content and replace it easily. On the dial, you will note that we have white varnish on the hands for super high contrast. Not a whole lot of detail to the dial itself, but you can see that each tracer sits in a little well that has been hollowed out specifically to ensconce the luminescent tube. Turning it over, you can see references, codifications, the Marathon websites, the control number for the radioactive elements, the military specifications that this watch meets, and of course, a little note that it is a 30 ATM 300-meter water-resistant diver, stainless steel. It uses 316L. And inside you've got a 25-joule 7750 unidirectional rotating winding system, 42-hour power reserve, 4 hertz beat rate, 25 pivot joules, which suggests it is in fact a 7750 and not, for example, an SW500 or SW510. And of course, you got the double quick set and the hacking seconds with a cam function selector, and this one's very well tuned. It's very crisp. And then you have an oscillating pinion lateral clutch, which means there's very little jump or stagger when you engage the chronograph. So although it is a lateral clutch, it's the type that has very little play, so its engagement is almost as smooth as a vertical clutch coupling system. If you love this watch, I can assure you, it's an honest watch. Big, tough, and actually used in the military. This is designed to last one full tour or one full lifetime, depending on your requirements. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.